by J. Francis Logan. Spy-Proof America. Greatest publication since the Civil War. Spy-Proof America, or the VSS, by J. Francis Logan, author of The Slacker, The Living Hell, Alimony, etc. America. Spy-Proof America means only one thing: a short, quick, decisive victory, and with honor, too. Like all enigmatic problems, someone just had to solve it, and so it has come to pass. From out of the masses there has arisen one, whose trumpet blast prophecy shall be heard across this land, and the call will be truly American. Help save 1 million lives, billions of dollars for America, and with no cost to you, lower to everlasting peace and love the greatest flag that flies, the Stars and Stripes. Every city is mobilizing. Join now. The Voluntary Secret Service, VSS. All profits to Liberty Loan issues. Copyrighted July 1917. All rights reserved.
To the American public, times such as are these, when the horror of war is upon this nation, is the only extraordinary era that our whole existence on this earth may ever again permit of us, as a body, to assist our flag. We all know that, only and always and forever, as in all things else in life, is it that the spirit makes the man, woman, or child. Nothing can be accomplished without spirit, all things with it. There has not yet appeared upon the page of any history any mortal whose ambitiousness gained zenith power other than along that lofty, that wondrous road which leads to that high, peaked with golden clouds of summit, of soul-burning spirit. Nor shall there ever be in this life. What are you going to say when the war is over? Are you prepared to tell those upon whom you look down and far, far back as you possibly can look into the past of your grandchildren, that you sat still all through the world's greatest war, absolutely inactively so? You know that of all things that will be the hardest to overcome, that one question, don't you? What did you do in the Great War? The writer of this book had the honor of answering the call for men to the colors when the issue came, and by that great man, William McKinley. And it is for that reason that I want to save you from yourself. It is for that reason that I want to show you how, though you may never shoulder a gun, sew a bandage, or join the Red Cross, how you can serve your country in an equally great capacity as though you were in active service, in the midst of a very trying campaign, and on the field of battle. I sincerely believe that the sale of this book will run up to the 500,000 copy mark. Therefore, I will have enlisted 500,000 people who, and during their spare moments will, give to their country a service that could not otherwise be purchased for less than the minimum salary of $2,000 a year. My method will, if carried out and by my readers, save for the United States government $1 billion a year in an actual paid-out salary. To those who, because of physical disability or overage, are prevented from joining one arm or other of the service, to those who, because of their mechanical or industrial ability, or too large a family, remain at home, or the woman who would but cannot leave a large family to join the Red Cross, or boys and girls who have not yet fully matured, how do you think you would feel when, 5 or 10 years from now, you throw back your proud heads and say, "No, I did not go to the war, not exactly, no, but I did give to the flag that which was best in me, and throughout the entire war I was one of the 500,000 whose active home service saved the government enough money to upkeep 4 soldiers in the field each year of our service, which upkeep supplied them with salary, equipments, clothes, food, and munitions. I was a member of the civilian VSS, the Voluntary Secret Service. I was one of the 500,000 whose service, and freely given too, helped keep in the field and during the war an army of 2 million soldiers. Will not this be far more beautiful, serenely patriotic, than all things else that any one or more Americans could ever hope to do, even though they gave to their country their all? Of course it would. Why? Because we of the 500,000 are the masses, the guides of democracy, of which we shall then be one. As those of the VSS read of the daily onslaught, both at home and on foreign soil, they will go forth with a light heart, aye, and with a lighter conscience, for ever in their mind will be that foremost thought, for every captured spy, that many months nearer peace is my country. And so will the world eventually adopt what shall soon be known as a universal phrase, "Keep out of America, you alien enemies, keep out, and if you are still there, stop, because if you don't, you may rest assured that the Voluntary Secret Service will positively get you." When our scar-bearing brothers return from the trenches and relate to you those awful days that the thundering guns smoked into the ebony, the inky blackness of cruel, bloody, ill-cultured night, and the nights were bespoken of as being beyond, inexplicably beyond description by the most gifted genius of the soldiery, or oratorical exponent, what will you then have to say? Instead of fearing to face those whom Almighty God gave to the defense of your country, you will greet their oncoming. Yes, you will, because you can very proudly, truthfully say to them, "I, too, served my country. I was an active member of the 500,000 Spy Brigade, the VSS." Tell me not that this or that or the other soldier, or group of soldiers, will not stand agape at what you yourself might possibly be able to relate regarding your personal capture of, or your sterling assistance in the capturing of a spy, else I will say, "Citizen, you speak with little heart, and weakly too do you imitate our true patriot." Because if you let your conscience dictate your determined duty to your dear country, and during the war you will, I am sure, have narrated both during and hence our national conflict saintly truths of thrilling, patient and courageous moment, truths which, though history may overlook the garment around which we all so humanely wrap them, the unselfish sacrifice and soul-like manner in which we so freely give them, never will forget the Stars and Stripes. Never before in the history of mankind has there been spread broadcast throughout any free and peace-loving land, and by a writer of sufficient courage to ask for what he thought his country could use, and at that time, and by the consent of only a necessary and sane conviction do I ask it, I ask my readers to join hearts and hands, and for the benefit of the country in general do I again request that those who do not go to war, and for reasons heretofore ascribed, which reasons better suggests their home service value, to become, and only during their leisure moments, members of the Voluntary Secret Service. The sooner the world learns that American soil holds, and free and independent of the U.S. Secret Service, and for that period of time during the war only, an army of 500,000 Voluntary Secret Service men and women, the sooner will we be in a position to eliminate plots and plotters from our soil, and for good and all time. And so, therefore, and in the height of justifiable sanctity and moral ethics of and for Christian mankind, shall we be able to draw to a more stringent and conclusive close this mad devastation of free existence. There are so many tricks in the spy box that it is imperative that I make my script read doubly plain, and for many pages before I begin my minute description of how spies gain their information. It is well to know that spies, real spies I mean, are highly cultured men and women. They possess talent and intellect, and the women beauty, and always do they have a plentiful supply of money. They are devoid of all traits and scruples. Passion with them is dead. Mercilessness is their god. Havoc their only thrill, and the more dupes they enlist in the cause, which is their endless chain of intrigue, the more glances they steal into the pages of the only Bible they possess, crime. And the combined intelligence of these people have been concentrated upon one solid subject, to serve the crown, to wreck republicanism. These traitors come to our shores and bathe in our democratic friendship. They accept our hospitable consideration. Yes, and to get still closer, deeper beneath our skin, they even marry our dear American girl. But all crime must, sooner or later, pass through that wonder school, that labyrinthal gallery of wizardry, that magic glass of democracy, the American press, and this self-same press will be the fairy god to my army of 500,000, the VSS. There are in this country today, and spread throughout our entire land, 250,000 of foreign spies. They breed their dupes where they can, and each succeeding convert to their heinous order will cultivate the criminal blood in another, and advise it into a high state of lawlessness. Desire on their parts to exceed each other in the open field of destruction has long since become the height of monstrosity. Fiendish concoctions desire to outlie each other, walking through the blood of each other's soul, that they might gain the approval of the master spy. Is not this alone sufficient to inform you of the merit of both the men and women whose devilish feet are now traversing our American soil? Why are they so active, say you? Because it is an open field of competition, and with false promises still fresh in the minds of these dupes, they will commit any crime. And the more fiendish the crime, the quicker the advancement. They all strive for advancement. They are all subjects of a fervent desire to get to that position of authority whereby they can dictate specifically just what is and what is not to be destroyed by their subordinates. And besides, such a position allows of their shaking the hand of the master spy, occasionally. At least they believe it to be the master spy. But that man is never known. Always is it a fact that he is never known. And still we hear of many going to jail because of being convicted of spy work. Don't believe that. There is always one man or more who is far beyond the master spy, and who is still high enough up in his government, and which man is believed to be the master spy, and by the dupes, who keeps silent and goes to jail. But Mr. Spy is busy again the next day. And the U.S. Secret Service know how hard it is to get the right man, when it comes down to exactly who the real spy is. They are here for that purpose. Do what they can, while they can, and when they catch one, he must stop. But how about the army they leave behind to continue the devastation, which army will in turn develop another? Here is where I claim my 500,000 army, the VSS, will be able to keep in touch with every move any spy emissary tries to make, and in any part of the United States, and during the entire war. Every spy emissary knows that the extraordinary activity of the U.S. Secret Service is at this time greater than at any other era of our history, and they will therefore act more cautiously, weigh their methods, and time every act. But they will not dare to try anything if they become aware of the newest fact, that 500,000 more tried and true men and women are on their heels. Why? Because with an additional force of patriots, whose efficient acts of law I shall so instruct as to be unable to err, and further down in this book, no one need fear to properly execute the law when the time comes, because I shall devote 15,000 words to the subject, how to distinguish a spy, and all men and women whose service the government do not require in the actual war need not fear to carry out my instructions and to the letter. Aside from myself, and I am with the government to the end, you can rest assured that both the U.S. government, the Secret Service, the people of this country, and the Army and Navy will thank us for the service we freely give to this, our country. If every man, woman, and child who reads this book will give his or her undivided devotion to the carrying out of the spirit of this book, we will kill, and with one blow, spy work in this country. And with the dealing of this blow, you will be one of the VSS who helped bring peace to the world, for you must know that where plotters cannot involve, intrigue must die. And so it is that I want every reader to become a serious, a conscientious member of the VSS. Let no mother or father grieve at their blood being in the trenches, for we at home are doing an equal service. Long live the Voluntary Secret Service! Let us stand together as one, let us be determined to wipe out spies with the same vim and love for our work as we would be serious were we to meet our God and on the morrow. With this spirit we cannot help but gloriously succeed. The American public are the easiest on earth to deceive. They take to their hearts and in dire sympathy universal cosmopolitanism. They believe, and that is just the thing the people of the VSS must overcome. They must run to cover the very traitor who, and after years of American hospitality, has openly and publicly so abused our confidence that we must now suppress or be numbered among those nations who now bow to the iron heel of their giant oppressor, Prussianism. It therefore behooves every American to rise to that height of chivalry so characteristic of those red corpuscles that have so freely flown within his veins, and since the spirit of '76, and resent the further sowing of any satanic seeds by those who, and up to a very recent date too, smiled on us through a steel mask and firmly shook our hand after having slipped off the iron glove. But we here in America know full well how to handle those who toss their sleepless heads upon those delicate seas of feathered hypocrisy. But this country is here to stay. No power on earth can take one star from Old Glory. Nor will any free-born American ever cease to stand close up and under our great big eagle. And close behind them will be that great body of the Home Guard, the VSS. Every great idea is that very thing that the public of that time is actually thinking about. They live it, breathe it. And then, when along comes that person who really gives it life, love, and progressiveness, so do the populace grasp it to their noble hearts, and with a spirit that permits of its natural longevity. And so do I hope that that same love shall persist in the wake of the VSS. Always and foremost in our minds must we think, and constantly so, this thought: that we as a nation are at war, so must we think, and seriously so, war, war, war. This is no time to pray for peace. We did all that kind of praying and for 3 years. Result? They almost put that Mexican deal straight over on us. We can't take any more chances. We have got to so imbue into the minds of our enemies the solid fact that America can't be fooled twice in the same generation, that we are going to make the world respect us, and the fact that we might have been too proud to fight must now be looked upon only as though it were a past myth, that the mere fact of our having blushed because of our saintly courtesy and open patience has nothing to do with, and absolutely so, yesterday, that this is our tomorrow, and that we have no idea of ever even thinking about going back to yesterday. With us it shall be only and always, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. And so it is with our soldiers, those steady boys who never try to shoot unless they first smell the smoke of the opposite trenches. And when that smoke is once within instinctive distance of their nostrils, well, I would that great and national loved soldier tell you just what they will do. Theodore Roosevelt. I merely quote the above to show you, dear reader, that even in the trenches our soldiers are humane, until, of course, that first shot is fired. Nor would I dare to so write myself, were I myself not a veteran of one war, and for my country, the USA. And so as I go on down through the pages of this book, must you know that you are the recipient of facts which are now fresh in the minds of the world's men whose country honor them with high positions of statescraft, American officialism. But as a patriot, I am going to overlook nothing that I think the public should know. And about spies, well, hide your modesty and look straight into the face facts. To overcome your sins of easygoing bohemianism, you're paying too much heed to a weak-minded clique of society creatures of misplaced vertebrae, whose soliloquies eventually ordained them into a noisy, subconscious state of mind labeled pacifists, whose pestilential endeavor almost made pervious the big minds of strong men, and the taking of too much for granted. We must now get our minds clear for action. We must be courageous enough to admit our faults, and by so doing all things else shall be forgotten. and there shall remain in our mind's eye that one and only great thought, our retrieved reformation. Overcome, and for the sake of the country in general, things that led to the actual cause of our having been too congenial to those whose every advantage of rights and goodwill on our soil has been most cruelly abused. And from now on, and to the end of the war, let us make it our daily Bible thought to keep our own counsel. By so doing, we shall have begun to strongly establish a great war point, silence. And upon this point alone depends the success of each and every member of the VSS. Work for your country and for your flag and for your people, but do these things with a quiet dignity. Do them so that you will look back upon your task, and in after years only as does that person think, and always so, of a lost love, daily. Every great national climax brings forth that which is best in the patriots of that country and at that time. Never has history told a deliberate lie in this respect, nor shall that long since dormant genius, which, great or small, dances along that timid outskirt of the human soul, longer manacle its spirit of recognition, and in those retrogressive swamps of cold, stone-still, enigmatic wiles of fantasy. Alas, they shall rise, rise, rise! And into their souls once again, as it was a century ago, shall come that rugged determination. Kill, yes, kill all symptoms of that nemesis known as the golden ghost. Lethargy and procrastination shall disappear in an unknown grave. The dynamic tray shall serve us no more. The scarlet spread, bleached white, no longer shall deceive us. Dyspeptic victuals shall henceforth be rejected. Veils worn by our innocent good fellowship shall henceforth be tightened about our heads, and from this hour on, until peace again extols throughout America, and the eagle again quietly subsides, we stop believing, we must be shown. The quiet manner in which the VSS shall go about their duty, and expunge all traitors and spies and their emissaries from our soil, the combined vigilance and intelligence of our army of 500,000, together with the knowledge that our armies in the field of active service are fully aware of the real home fact, that fighting for them and as a rear guard stands another army of 500,000, and what will that say to the men in the field whose every movement is for posterity but this, that the universe will soon learn that the American genius has risen to its fullest height, that we are alive on both ends, that for every link we break in the chain of intrigue, for an attempt to further till our soil with venom, that much louder will our voices be heard over all parts of the earth beneath which there exists life. Prevention of countless battles, mayhap, and the saving of thousands upon thousands of lives, the bringing to an early close the most colossal war of all ages, and the shouting of the voices of the entire Christian world, America, oh America! God bless you, America! Never forget for one single moment that the activity which we throw into our silent work will have a lesser bearing on the eventual, probable saving of the very life of that one whom you dearly love, and to whose flag you have given him, because it will not. For, as we strive to play that master military blow which, when once delivered, always and abruptly ends every war, so shall we become better acquainted with that bugle blast that must again permit of us to turn our minds and thoughts to concentrative education of American babyhood, that they in turn might endure in our beautiful past sentiment and traits of precious righteousness, and the bringing home of those whom we love, that they might assist us to bury, and deep down into the very souls of our tots of the rising generation, devotion, chivalry, Americanism. What will those fathers say to their children? Were you unable to join in the descriptive narratives, since the country saw fit to leave you behind? How do you think you would then feel? Would you court going into the dazed open, out of physical fear that your ears might be unable to listen to the word, my country? Or would you hide behind that old adage, if I hadn't been so old, I certainly would have been there too? Or would you not rather stand up, with that fire burning out of your clear eyes, the eyes of patriots never dim, and your chest thrown out, and say, "I, sir, was an active member of the Home Guard." And as you go on and relate of the actual part you took in the running down of such and such a spy, your trials and tribulations, and the valiant service that you gave to the country and the flag, and without consideration, pure voluntary service, and one of the 500,000 brigade of men, women, young boys, and girls, and that you each member supported 4 soldiers a year and during the war, well, what do you think that soldier is going to say? This: "Tell me all about it, it's wonderful." Members of the VSS, the eyes of the world will never cease to be steadfastly upon you. You will be acknowledged as the first, the greatest Corps des Gardes ever organized. Other countries at war will mobilize their Home Guard, and the Paris Bureau, Scotland Yard, and the Russian Duma will follow you. Likewise will the Home Guards of every ally get behind the police of their respective nations, and exactly as we here in America will stand in the silent background and as an iron reinforcement to the USSS. With such service behind the Allied police forces of the Allies, how long do you think spies can endure? We are together, and so do we here in America, originate and overnight the greatest police army on earth. Your solemn vow to join the VSS is a step nearer peace on earth. Nor could the sudden unity of this country have been believed ever to have so risen, and in only a few short weeks, as to turn into just and only one person 100 million people. Again we have accomplished the miraculous. It is a way we have, though we sometimes linger too long in deciding the awakening point. However, and since our national convictions have been written into letters of law, we, all of us, must help bear up those 3 letters of the law, the weightiest on earth, WAR. Every hour wasted in idle conjecture means an extra day of actual warfare, and to know the true meaning of this statement, you must understand distinctly this: every extra day that we remain at war means to America an expenditure of $25 million. So you can see for yourself that the wiping out of spies means only one thing, and that I want to make so plain that no one can fail to thoroughly understand me. Here it is. Memorize it. The soldiery can move on in secrecy. Alien enemies who fear that their every move might be detected by the VSS will not dare try to venture within the bounds of careless daring, nor will their neck-loving dictators care to so dangerously command them. The Navy can likewise maneuver along our coasts with their full thoughts glued upon the flagship. All coast defense and fortifications can specifically concentrate, and salient land forces can mobilize, and every single arm of the service will know that behind them, and as a solid unit, and in rear of the USSS, stands that wonderful army of patriots whose honor to their flag has wiped out all chances that spies ever might have had to do damage to the United States government, the VSS also. What greater spirit could our men-in-arms possibly have than the constant, the all-loving thought that the entire populace at home are working, and together and for and toward one end only, that their sweethearts are in the service, that their wives and children are constantly on the alert, and, last but not least, fathers and mothers have, and where age don't count, and for the first time in the history of the world been able to offer valuable service to their country. This marvelous state of union is the first germ of international conception which must eventually become a general and Christian world adoption of necessity. A month hence the issue of this warning shall prove my words prophetic, nor can the living spy on American soil peruse this book, lest he or she look about them, and constantly, for the very and actual fear that the wrath of democracy swoop down upon them and crush them to the 4 winds, evaporate their remains of nothingness into a still further state of extinction, and, further still, dispatch, and into the most remote archives of vacuous hell, their last retrogression. Those that hide behind the silken banner of modern progress, only to tear and into threads, and at the earliest opportunity, all grace of God and lawful conscientious agreements, and shower the peaceful hearthstone of innocent neighbors, and for a foot of adjacent territory with molten steel. Did God give us super genius only to manifold funereal intent? And it is to prevent such desecration that I send forth my humane message to all Christian mankind. Listen, deduct, fathom, serve with your soul. The physical is only the outer half. The brain, heart, imagination, these lead to the only altar. It is 'neath this mansion roof and before this secret altar that we of America always kneel and always shall. And, though we have at times sweated blood, we have no regrets for those whom we have so freely given, nor shall we ever consider lost those sacrificed upon our altar, that of American conviction. So humane are we of blessed America that we would, if we but could, and send forth into the enemy's lines of actual conflict shells of warning, dead bead-aimed shells which accuracy, though empty shells, would tell our enemies to withdraw or prepare for a fusillade of rapid, deadly gunfire that no skill or courage could withstand, an attack that our enemies' survivors would look back upon as being the only exponents of the fittest deluge of human destruction ever delivered. You of America know that this is only another one of our big traits, only another one of those beautiful, humanely beautiful characteristics in our national box of priceless possessions. The things that the world forced us to prove, unity. Every living soul in this country should know the full elements of this book, and know it from a heart study. And those who are with the sentiment of the backbone of the nation will agree with the author, and those who are not have but to voice their opinion. Dissension against this prophetic writing proves my advocacy as regards the necessity and absolute obliteration of all spies. For intelligence knows that to deny right means only one thing: be on the lookout for those that truthful accusations hurt, the biggest and best issue possible toward the early campaign of the VSS. When you walk into the parlor of any well-known Christian family, you will find preeminent among their book collection, and lying on the table, the Bible. At once you detect solid environment. If you have in mind a subject on ecclesiasm, you expect its cordial greeting. And seldom are you disappointed, especially among those who believe in the infinitus. These same staunch people now have the opportunity to equally prove, and to their earthly God, a similar constancy, patriotism, love for their country. And beside that prophetic book of past and forgotten ages, they now place, and rightly so, what shall yet become an equally strong disciple of our flag as is the Bible, the guide to your souls, the Voluntary Service edition. Back home here and afar from the fierce detonations of the battlefield, we have to think of, deeply, quietly, carefully, these, the most gigantic of all modern era subjects. Since love made me give my child to my flag, an equal and constant and indefatigable love will bring him back to me, and so may every mother acclaim. Likewise may fathers who grieve over the possible loss of their sons, that the family name may not pass down through posterity, help end our present conflict. Sweethearts and prospective brides, whose secret and sacred desires for the promulgation of the living images of those to whom they have given love and solemn, holy, chaste, can, and with an eulogy, in equal determination to that fiery love of and for him, help bring him home to you and fresh from the battlefield. Daughters can help bring back home brothers, brothers and fathers, and relative blood, relatives, while our elderly folks, too, will once more be able to thrill, as upon their earshot falls combined tales and laughter of that good old-time family tree gathering. We have but to do our duty to accomplish these things. If every citizen whose service to the country demands that he shall remain at home, for reasons best known to the government, will promise, and keep that promise foremost in their mind's eye, and those who may not serve will do likewise, you may rest assured that, and every VSS member of the great silent army must know, we will clean the entire land of spies, save for this our country, billions of dollars, which money will help keep intact our natural resources and enable us to readily, substantially finance worthy considerations and by acts of state, and render a service, which service shall be freely given as does the blood flow and with ease through healthy veins. And with this great silent service, so can we accomplish the greatest double act in history, freely giving to America what would, were we forced to procure it and by salary, double the war cost. Whereas, and upon the other hand, and by our loyalty, reduce the actual war cost 1/2, and help bring to an early close the war, and make America spy-proof. May God bless and guide your every movement, you brave members of the VSS. What could be more serenely aspired to, and by those who cannot serve at the actual front, than the thought, as I look at you, Old Glory, so do I serve you, and when I say I serve you, I mean with my heart, my soul, my whole intellect, my courage. And if, as one of the great silent army, you bid me, so you can have my life, for as an exponent of national patriotism, I do not specify, no one must. Supposition is dead, meditation decadent, fickleness an open invite to calamity. Since these near above words border upon things that could possibly be thought out, and well by culture as mediocrity, now is the time to obliterate all thoughts, and during the war period, that might at any other time be accused against that ghost of psychology, unconscionable brain shock in the wake of powerful imagination, mental abstraction, a traitor which, if you weigh your words, must die. Every available body that might aid this country during this crisis already have begun their specific method of mobilization, but now begins the assemblage of the supreme, the greatest in the history of the world, the VSS. The truest and most impartial organization ever conceived since brain power became the vitality of progressive democracy, can be observed by the inception of the mightiest money-saving service army, and during a war that ever shall have been construed in this or any other country on this earth. Utilize those of our great nation, and as a single and solid unit, and those only to whom the war voice says, stay home, as the impervious, the 500,000 brigade whose vigilance in the field of open life, and voluntarily so, will not surely and quickly sweep clean the entire nation, and for all time, of spies, but dispatch to the universe what shall become known as the immortal message. The indefatigable army, the Voluntary Secret Service, is the author's message to the American public. The creation of this original defense arm of the service is only traditional of the country. We are known as always being able to rise to any and every occasion. And so shall I both detail and instruct, and later down in these pages, what must soon become the acknowledged army of modern times, because, not only shall my corps both support the keen preservation of unhampered industrialism, and continue to do so and during the war, but save the nation billions of dollars by so doing, which saving will, if my army of the VSS should reach the grand membership of 2.5 millions, amount to $5 billions a year, enough money to support, each year during the war, our Army and Navy. What do you think this country could do with $10 billions a year? That is exactly the salary which would have to be paid to 2.5 millions of Secret Service, and at a rate of $2,000 a year. And I quote a very low, a minimum figure at that. And furthermore, the country is in dire need of this service, and at this actual writing, but it can see no way clear to acquire so gigantic a force of proficient service, for the simple reason that it cannot afford to pay out of the Treasury, and at this time, so tremendous a sum of money. This is where the VSS is going to become a blessing to the country in general, and at this most opportune of all modern times. Always remember that no country can ever have too many Secret Service during a war, that the more they have, the shorter becomes the life of the war, and the sooner the war ends, the sooner stops what is known as both war tax and the national indebtedness. And why is this a fact? Because the Secret Service of any country is the vital arm of that country, and recognized as the guiding body to the war pivot. Why is this a fact? Because the greater the number of this body, the greater is the number of plots and intrigue and treason and conspiracy which is positively run to earth. And with this accomplished, what happens? Simply this: your nation is spy-proof. Well, what happens then? Your industries work in capacity. They turn out the supply equal to the demand. And greater still, the combined labor of the country works in harmony and absolutely free from any and all impartial molestation. Then what? Your army and navy moves in secrecy. The enemy is ignorant of any prospective move either by land or water. Spy communications are dead. Quick, decisive blows are struck, and with victorious effect. The enemy is crushed. And so comes an equally conclusive ending of the war. But the Secret Service is the vital pathfinder which always leads us back home, to peace, love, happiness. That, my reader, is what the VSS is going to help America to accomplish, and by so doing will the early members of my corps go down in history as being the men, women, young boys and girls who, though both too old and young to serve, served as the greatest rear guard of the VSS that the Christian era will ever know. And together with them at home will be found both the brains of the masses and industrial kings and their executive ability to assist the VSS whenever the occasion arises. Our allegiance to the flag will bring to this country the sudden peace that our patience could no longer withstand, and with dignity. And, although we are in no position to look askance upon the gravity of so great and bloody a conflict, we are in just that channel to throw into the war our full and undivided spirit, a spirit of love and devotion, of courage and dependable conviction. And with it we must stand upon that firm and solemn altar of tradition. All that we want to do, shall do, or ever hope to do as an active member of the VSS depends upon, and absolutely so, that which first gave to us the country under which flag God permitted of us the freedom of birth, conservatism. And now, my esteemed reader, and before I start to tear and into 1,000 bits of truthful threads, and with the full knowledge that I am an American whose humble duty it is to answer my country when they call together the brains of the nation, and for which country and whose flag I would give my most sacred all, the spy box. And with a 15,000-word description on exactly how to devastate this infamy, I will first portray to you why the sworn honor to the great silent army is a duty beneficial to your own future happiness, and vitally so, as is it loyal to the flag and constant to the VSS. I use no subterfuge. I cite no facts. I strive neither to incite nor excite. Nor would I use one word to misguide you. The delicacy of my principle would abhor me were I so to do. Also would the talent of my art frown down upon me for any literary breach for mere gain. Therefore, I will tell you only of our need for you and the real truth. I ask only that you give your full thoughts to the service of your country, and only during the war, and only during your leisure hours. And then in a little while, and when you grow up with your new thoughts, you can, say in a month or so, apply them, and actively so, and every minute during your working hours, and with wonderful results. Thus the great army is in its full stride, and 500,000 strong. And, sure as the masses learn of our progress, just so sure will it double in actual number, and overnight. And so sure as does lightning streak flash down upon us and from the high heavens, and with a rapidity known only to the gods, equally rapid and through the minds of the masses, shall pass the prophetic warning. And with this almighty, clear message, sole appeal to the public, so I hope shall there then have begun an immediate mobilization of the VSS, and of so gigantic, so climactic an aptitude, that each hour told off the clock of existence shall take with it the last vestige even of spy reminiscence, and for all time from our honored free land soil. and with this known fact so may we again set about to establish. And for the rising generation, and their children's children's children, the setting aside of any and all obstacles that might ever again obstruct their unhampered march along and upon the high roads to progress, that throughout the life of our nation and clear down to the dawn of eternity, we, and those of us shall, and those of them and their children, be free as the rising and setting sun in the working out of our and their own blessed right to conscientious and individual salvation. This the VSS can do. Ruthless in our stern conviction as have been those rattlesnakes whom we so honestly gave our warm handshakes, only to have lived to see, and by those self-same people, an attempted contempt toward our flag, is the exact and only way to bring to an early closing of amazing success, and by the great army of the VSS, the death knell to the spies. And with devotion never before heard of, will the soldiers in the field see, entwined in the very smoke clouds which arise from out of their roaring guns, imaginary pictures of the spirit of the silent army. And further through the magic twists of that same fading smoke shall they read, "The souls of the VSS are with you, boys, so keep your gallant hearts in front." Regardless of the fierceness of any battle, just as many thoughts will be closing around the near detection, and daily, of spies, as triggers touch delicate caps. Fast as the army locates the position of the enemy, equally fast will the links in our endless chain, which will cordon our entire territory, ferret out the spies. With miraculous dispatch will the abroad powers learn that all communications have, not only been cut off and by both land and sea, but killed outright and forever. They will then know that America never makes the same mistake, that only once can it be fooled in every 100 years, but that hereafter we are even going to put a cipher on the end of that 100 and play safe. And that the expenditure in war moneys that certain people think will embarrass America because of their spy infection, will, when they learn that the VSS have broken the back of that self-same spy plague, and that instead of being the Rip Van Winkle race of the universe, we are the never sleeps, drop dead. When these same people learn that America have turned VSS and overnight, and that the war which would otherwise have run along for years, because of spies, and their constant intrigue, and army of dupes, will now come to an early close, that our country can go ahead and prosecute all slights against its dignity, that the great silent army has given itself to the colors, and with a corps of from 2.5 millions of our noble patriots, down to the immediate starting point of 1/2 million, which starting point will jump right up to the 2.5 million point, well, I wonder just what they will, when the shock leaves them, say or think. When certain people learn that the VSS airtight protection saves this country from $1 billion to $5 billion a year, enough to pursue a war, what then will these same people do in the face of the fact that they have actually thrown to the four winds every dollar used in this country, the spy and dupe fund, and which amount run high as billions, since it has been going on for years? Will any one or more people then say, "They are sound asleep here in America"? Oh, no, no, and all the time we of the VSS are saving for the country, and because of the fact that the spirit of the flag is wrapped around our very souls, actually and really so, and because of our wonderful army, enough money to run the war. And exactly what is the truthful culmination of our creation, our newborn child, which Almighty God has given us the power to think out and the courage to inaugurate? What money our U.S. government would otherwise require to finance the war may now be loaned, and by acts of state and to our compatriots in the field, which moneys, and by discretion of state acts, eventually revert back to our national resources. Now that we have covered the war loan, what next? To pay an army of so great a force as will the VSS soon become, our country would have to have a reserve fund of from $1 to $5 billions, and for each year during the war. In the face of other equal national necessities, This cannot be accomplished. Could it be done, there would be no need of the VSS. But it can neither be done, nor can the country afford to stand bare of this great national accomplishment having been done. It is part of the breath of life to the red, white, and blue. And for it I am ready to give all that there is to me, that of an American. I can do no more than give my life to the cause of the birth of this new national child. I say my life only because I truly believe that this book will yet become the biggest issue aside from actual warfare itself, that the blow it will strike will mean sure death to our internal enemies, and the absolute death and forever to any and all spies in these United States of America. And for this reason I shall never even become surprised at the attempt of any one or more spies to endeavor to mistake me for a target. Rather me than Uncle Sam. The idea of this great silent army becoming an immediate reality is my foremost thought. When we wipe out all spies, we shorten the war. This saves for our country what moneys it would further cost, and per diem to continue the war. That is facts, a something stronger than history itself. Our army can terminate a 3-year war in 1 year. Spies can do just that much damage. We wipe them out, that's settled. If our 1 year's service can accomplish this, this is really what we have done. Saved for our country 15 billions, prevented the further sacrifice of our men in arms, lives, brought home to the loving, loved ones, reigned the Christian and democratic world with peace on earth, and forevermore, and, to your flag shall have gone the quickest peace with honor and victory this world ever has known. And so shall nations of the democracy, world, look upon us with eyes bright as though heaven itself sanctified their glow for just that one holy glance at our virgin American soil. This is what the great silent army can now accomplish, that the gods of all ancient future time may look back and down into the never-fading rocks of the 20th century and see eating inward those same time-worn rocks, the true flame of our patriotic conscience of today, the army of our flag, the VSS. Time never shall outlive this war. Always shall it be discussed history, and too the VSS. This great impartial army will put before each and every member, and foremost in the mind of every being whose honor to the flag swears by its sacred emblem to bear true faith and allegiance to the VSS, this: we all stand as one. We are on the firm ground of solid equality. Rich or poor, old or young, masters or servants, it matters not, for we are equal. We are the eyes, ears, and brain of America. We have but one aim, to clear and forever the United States of all spies. Citizens who are left behind can join this great body by the mere promising to themselves that they will do their duty, faithful. Every city can come out in the open and notify its members that a meeting of the membership of that city will take place at such and such a place, and that all members are expected to be there present. Every city can do likewise. Soon the entire country has firmly established. Villages and countries are made branches of the nearest city headquarters. Cities communicate with cities, states with states, and eventually the entire country is covered with the active order of the greatest army on earth, the VSS. The headquarters of every city is got up at the low cost to each and every active member of about 5 cents a week. This will carry all overhead expenses such as this: office, staff, printing, stamps and telephone, and all intercity telegrams. The combined membership of each and every city may meet and so declare, and by a silent vote, just what method shall be the best adopted to select their high officers. Every city shall have its chief, its captains, lieutenants, and sergeants. These positions shall be honorary. Only the active office staff shall receive a salary, which staff must be picked from the vicinity thereat, and absolutely and only because of their serene integrity. The commissioned officers will examine all reports on spy suspects previous to sending them, and for action to the U.S. Secret Service, who only shall act upon any and all arrests. Should there be no such office in that vicinity, all sound reports will be forwarded forthwith and to the nearest branch office of the VSS, that they may be turned over and at once to the U.S. Secret Service. Meantime, all suspects will be watched by the VSS in that section also. This way, no suspect can depart without the nearest branch being in full accord with both the instant of the departure and the method of conveyance. If by any means any one or more suspects should elude the VSS, it will be an easy matter to again pick up the clue and by our branches, as full description of all suspects, and of both sexes, will be on file in that office whose members first found reason to suspect said probable spies. On any and all occasions where photographs can be taken of suspects, they should be taken. It will better able every member to recognize suspects, as the office of that city can then have what shall be known as a foreign rogues gallery. In the event that any living soul should dare join the VSS for any other reason than to give their full spare time and devotion to the cause, and it can be made into a plain fact that such an act of treason has occurred against the forces of the order, then that person or persons shall not only be dropped from the rolls of the VSS of that city thereat, but dealt with as an alien enemy, a suspect. I can see the brains of the entire nation standing together as one member, and in every city in God's country, and as solid members of the greatest army on earth. That the masses will take up this work is only traditional of Americanism. The wise heads of this or that community will instruct those whose earlier education might have been neglected, but whose hearts and minds are in the right, in the light of a national emergency. And so can the courage and flame of patriotic constancy mold themselves into thought of one aim, duty to the flag. Each member is another seed planted, which will link itself to the vigilance of that great army, whose hands, if clasped together, will form one mass of courage like the world never before dreamed of, and touch body to body, heart to heart, and soul to soul, and with the spirit of '76 clear around the American continent. Thus we have enacted, and for the first time in the face of warfare, the exact method of rendering a nation spy-proof, and with the cost of not 1 cent to the country which soil and whose flag we call Home Sweet Home, America. In another few minutes you will come upon the first opening of the spy box. It is imperative that I first go a trifle further on what shall yet become immortal facts in the history of our country. This is the first time that ever the entire Army and Navy could go forth with the knowledge burning down into their souls that not only is the hearts of the people with them, but that they are part of the actual service, that what they do will bring to a close the war, and doubly fast. Heretofore, we could but sit tight, listen, wait for the return of our loved ones. But with the breast of the times, so have we arisen, and with the rising of the whole country, so can it but be expected of those in arms to equally rise. And when before them is that great inspiring thought, America is now spy-proof. Well, what do you think that means to the soldier? That all things at home and against the flag have been wiped out and for good. Fight fast and get home soon, it means. All obstructions vanish before the progressive victory of Army and Navy when you do the one and only thing that can be done to overcome it, wipe out spies. We have 500,000 VSS against 250,000 of spies, but we will have over 2.5 million in the VSS, our great army, and in a short time. This will kill dead and overnight and forever all propaganda here in America by both spies and their dupes. Look at the facts square in the face. War will come to an early close. Where you are working, you help make your firm attack-proof. It then permits of the country to rely upon output equal to the demands, because only demands ends war. And besides, don't miss the point. When you get rid of the spy, you are only protecting yourself, because any minute their devilish work may take you with it. Therefore, let it be plain to you, reader, that not only are you saving the country billions of dollars, wiping out the war tax, upkeeping the men in arms, and keeping the wheels of industry going round, and ending the war to wisdom of certainty, but the lives of the citizens are protected by the VSS, because to get rid of them means that they have been wiped out, gone, dead for good. That is a philosophy that all America will not fail to see, and keenly so, and the author feels that the entire nation will take the mention of it as their Bible in the clean sweep, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, against spies. Never think it is other than the work of the children of God to preserve your country against all wiles of the enemy, and in war times, because it is not. Our hearts prove it. Here in free America, every individual has had the honor to pursue the destiny nearest the heart. Even the chair in the Capitol holds itself out to all men. No ambition is too great of acclamation. Women may sit in and help make our laws. It is free, free, free. So to serve the silent army is the only keeping it equally free. We are showing our flag, our blood, our nation. We are working behind the trenches. We are sending to those that defend us at the front this message. Soldiers, you may but look ahead, go ahead, push on. March, march on, brave soldiers, march. The rear guard is protecting you. The flag is safe. Don't even think of looking at other than the enemy, for behind you stands the masses, the VSS. Oh, how grand, how wonderful, how beautiful. What a sacred honor, citizens, you may now fulfill. And so to fulfill it means so much more spirit to those far away, at the front, and soon. And because America is always to remain free, and that old flag is destined so to fly and forever, God has once more shown us, and in the midst of our turmoil, how to save our holy flag from further insult. From out of the masses there has come to you, and by the will of democracy, only a mere mortal who shows you light. Follow me, mortals, you disciples of freedom, follow. Life, love, hope, happiness. Cease to wonder how these capitalists of intrigue have accomplished, and before the very door of our nation, the planting of enough devil seeds to smother us. Forget that. It has been done. Overcome it. We must. And now. Close this book with the solemn vow that you hope to stand by and during the war, the VSS. Your city is mobilizing. Enroll. Now. Allied professionalism. The combined brains of any city will greatly assist the early forming of the immediately necessary mobilization of the forces of that municipality to help thoroughly instruct those of the lesser gravity in the higher intellectual. Constancy and conservation will be their banner. Imagination must be tolerated by those that have already gained repute along the higher plane line, together with the already fully trained private detective citizenry, whose hidden selves and talent have never yet failed to rise to the occasion of the word duty. To the honor of professionalism of every environment will rest the crown duly known as preceptorial. To either sex will go this equally divided crown. While this is the only organization in the world which is ascertained as being impartial, it is to be assumed that suggestions from the learned will be taken as being gifted guides to the members thereat. Unanimously so shall they be understood and accepted by those upon whose earshot fall their uttered recipiency. Likewise, and aside from the regular official staff elected, will it be a very proficient action, and on the part of the entire membership, to elect as honorary members those best known in public life and in that vicinity. Regardless of one's standing in life, nothing must prevent all members from becoming adroit. As a body unit, they will strive toward one successful end only, the VSS. All thought must be government. Professional folk shall have a still greater chance to indulge in careful conversation with those whom they have reason to suspect as being alien enemies. As solemn patriots of their country, They shall communicate all information to that headquarters to which they are attached, and by the same method as would those whose daily duty proves more confining. Teachers are invited to lecture. Police department detectives are cordially invited to legally advise. Lawyers point to specific discrepancies in criminology. Doctors, the method of flag insanity. Women's suffrage will prove the Joan of Arc of this mighty movement, I am sure. Many shall be the geniuses whose spark must churn from, past dormant ability, into suddenly awakened and most joyful duty, patriotism, the germ that counts. The author will lecture in any city and by written and appointive request. Reiterate, you professional people, reiterate. Start to talk spy-proof America. Assemble. Our flag and dignity is at stake. Start now. Pass the word of the only and first spy move of its kind in history. Become an advocate. Join now. Free as our flag, true as our liberty, strong as our eagle, loyal as God is true. Wake up to the master move of all. America, spy-proof. Protect future America. Join. And so shall the cross of freedom embed itself down in your souls. 1b. Allied Veterans of the GAR and Spanish-American War. You brave boys who served your flag when the call came, you whose days of youth was freely given to the spirit of Abraham Lincoln, do you ever have any regrets for that golden past devoted that your flag might wave and forever o'er our land and proudly on the sweet breezes of almighty freedom? No, 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 shouts the very souls of those among you who still survive, your hearts too. You all know the meaning of the word spy. I know how you old boys feel now. If only you could get into one more scrap, just one more, then death. I know. The young members of the VSS will look to you boys of 61 for advice. Make it known that you are at the headquarters to tell all you know about spies, that in the good old days things were done by spies too, and explain how wars can be brought to an early close when once we get rid of them. Instruct the younger people and show them that you know. Speak out. Tell them. And you boys of 98, how can you overlook talking about what you absolutely know to have been the cause of our war at that time, and with Spain? How do I know? Troop K, 8th U.S. Cavalry. 3 years, Cuba. That's how I know. Can you tell me of any better way to have found out? I am one of you, reader. You one of us. We are one. Let us stand together now, and as members of the VSS, help start the thing one, a quick and solid basis, and in every city in the nation, and at once. Veterans of the nation, you are called upon to help establish the first silent army on earth. So rise to the same occasion that you did for William McKinley. Select your headquarters. Mobilize. Start the great spy move now. Honor America. Your children will read of our activity in all ages of American history. You of the past 2 wars, listen. 250,000 spies in America. Now. Enough. 1c. Agriculture, American Farmers. Remember that once you read this book and decide to become an active member of the greatest body in the world, you are doing the safest thing possible for both your crops and your future desire for peace on earth and forever. Make it known throughout your community that you are a member of the VSS. A few spies can ruin your crops overnight, not only by fire or fluids, and 2 of their methods is exactly that, but by the infesting of your crops with certain species of insects only too well known to the student of entomology. Destroyed crops means only one thing, famine. But when your entire district has enrolled as members of the VSS, there isn't a move made by any spy that you don't know of that very minute. Why? The entire section is informed to be on the lookout. No spy can get away from the national spy move. To preserve your crops means to feed the nation. But to do that, you must help the VSS. Millions of us are members. You join now. Select a headquarters and begin the world's greatest war move. Wipe our land free from the spy espionage. Go to your prominent citizens, ask questions. Start now. Lock the door against spies, and the war ends quickly. The key is here. Turn it. 1D. Abattoirs, American slaughterhouses and packers. If your meats be poisoned, after the U.S. inspection, how do you suppose retailers are going to know about it? Only after the family doctor has been called in, and, in all probability, has to call in the Board of Health to prevent a plague. Who is going to pay for the loss of life, less the damage done? Spies will do anything. How about ptomaine poisoning? Are you packers prepared to protect both yourself and this government? You know that canned goods is a great asset to any army en route, don't you? Do you think any spies can get away with this if your entire body of employees are members of the VSS? I guess not. The health of our soldiery is put straight up to you, gentlemen. Will you heed the timely warning? You all know what can be done and prevented, don't you? Encourage your entire firm to enroll, now. Our nation is in a turmoil. We are at war. Spread the news to all whom you know, and the nation will no longer hold one single spy. Join. 1E. Apothecaries, American druggists. Between prescriptions, do you seal all bottles which hold either component part drugs, or chemicals, or soporific ingredients? This nation is at war, therefore it is necessary that you prevent any attempt on the part of spies from trying to put out of the way valuable citizens whose prescriptions you fill. This is done. You must just as well know it now. The public trusts you. But war is war, and that is the duty you must fulfill, vigilance. Accidents mean the reputation of both your business, your name, and the physician from whom you indirectly subscribe. Watch. Watch every ounce of medicine in your premise. See that your dispensing clerks are strong for the VSS. If not, find out why. You know what microbes can do to any body of people. To spread plague is the spy's especial heart delight. Stop it. Have no clerk in your employ who will not advocate the greatest move in history. You are one of the vital arms of the community. No honest clerk will hesitate a second to help preserve the public health. If so, as a member of the VSS, I advise you to not only report the matter to your headquarters, but to send out to all drugstores in that city, via headquarters, a description of this or those clerks. Likewise are they watched, and when they leave town, the next branch is notified. In this particular case, all hospitals are duly notified. Notify the VSS at once of all sales of powerful drugs, and to whom, that doctors might have overlooked on the spur of too busy a moment. The dignity of a physician at times fools him, and in wartime a spy's dupe needs a brace before committing an act of treason. You know how that clever vixen fooled countless Benedict Arnolds, don't you? Well, in the good name of this nation be careful, and begin by joining the VSS, now. Become one of the millions to cleanse this nation of, and forever, spies. Ask questions. 1F. Aeroplanes, American manufacturers of aeroplanes. Of all plants, the aeroplane shops is the place to find spies. It is of vital importance that the enemy know exactly what progress we are making, and against the common foe. Therefore, it is essential that this method be adopted, the VSS. All employees are then on an equal footing. If you then have a small number among the many who are adverse towards this great movement, well, don't you suppose thousands can make absolutely impossible any treasonable move against the willful few? Yes, sir. The sooner these names go to the VSS office, the better for the country, because all suspects are then under strict surveillance. A wrong move means an arrest. Querulous people in these plants must be watched. Maps are of value to the enemy. This war has only begun. Therefore, I make a special plea to the heads of these works, and because of the trust this government has in these same heads, to advocate this wonderful move of the nation to wipe off our part of the map, all spies. When the eyes, ears, and brains of one of these plants are working together, tell me, How do you expect any few can ever either steal designs, intrigue to blow up, or arrange to do any damage to that works, and during the entire war? It cannot be done. And so can you see that the VSS shall be a guide to this nation throughout the great war into which we have now become involved. Our future, America, spy-proof. 1G, American Bankers and Financiers. Bankers and financiers of note are the backbone of a nation during a war. You gentlemen must learn not to take up any pen and place it near your lips. That is another spy trick. Be careful that the paper you handle has not been sprinkled with any poisonous powder. Advocate the VSS to all your employees, and pay much attention to those who frown upon this great national movement. Never mind how long employed or faithful servants they are. You be sure of them now. America needs you. Have some of the prominent members of the VSS pay you a visit in your home. It may surprise you to get the version of your servants, to whom you seldom talk, and from a clever VSS member. If they are wrong, they are wrong. If right, they will read this and be natural. Otherwise, they will either prepare for the grilling or leave your service at once. And so do they go on record in the office of the VSS. Either way is a dead giveaway. They can't beat the most powerful movement ever put into operation in this or any other country. Make sure that you know all about your chauffeur. Accidents do happen, but they manifold during a war. Have your relative take charge of your household during your weekend this coming summer. Help sometimes hold strange meetings. Are you sure that you have a clear, no-branch wire leading from your home when you telephone? Examine your animals. Diseases sometimes reaches the master of the home. Talk about the VSS. 1H, American Chemists, Laboratories. This nation, gentlemen, and as a solid body, looks to you for your indefatigable support. Problems of national importance will ask your genius to solve them. Our immediate future surety shop, and with much weight, will rest upon your shoulders. Are you ready? Your secrets of state and firm privacy are wanted by spies. How do you propose to make impervious attacks against even your very self, let alone secrets of the government entrusted to you, or those of your own from your firms, or those of your arsenal? Conspiracy such as this is spies' insane delight. Make them so morbid that they become super-villainous. What must happen can be overcome, now. When we actuate our present war move, we may well prepare for the real spy move. So do I portray the premature movement against any such attack or attacks. Take the utmost care in picking your assistants. Constantly discuss with them the merits of the VSS. Suggest their becoming members. And to show results, join yourself. Keep in touch with the VSS office daily. Telephone. Have your assistants hear you ask, "What results have we today?" This is N.O. talking. Then tell your assistants what news you just received from the VSS. Protect your nation. Every city in our land is doing likewise. No spies ends a 5-year war in just 1 year. No military or naval authority can rightly give other than this exact version. Remember, we save billions for America. It costs us only our honor and loyalty. 1I, American Chemical Manufacturers. Without your able assistance, no war could long subsist. Therefore, you must know that any cessation will prevent the rapid pursuit of this war of humanity, and that only inspired vigilance on the part of all units will spell victory. It is of country-wide, indescribable importance that such plants as these are to be so protected that even the very thought of destructive action against them capture the inmost, the very hearts and souls and combined brains of all solid loyalty within, that they may remain vital to our progressive, righteous, free land. Print down into your very spirit, you of the chemical plants I mean, this thought. You are part of the war. Your service is war. Your country needs you. Every one of you. and an accident means not only pain to your loved ones at home, delay to your output, and loss of your salary, but a serious impediment to our country and to your flag. All this can be evaded by becoming an active member of the VSS, now. With every one of you a member of the greatest silent army in history, how long will it take to wipe spies out of your plant? Make yourself a VSS. You have the authority then to report to your headquarters all suspects. So will every man in the plant do likewise. This is cooperation. In a flash you have your suspect. The eyes of the plant are on that spy. And so is that spy watched night and day. Everybody wants to make that arrest. Why? Because you are an enrolled member of the VSS. You will be recognized in every part of this great country. Start to talk about it. Talk about the city headquarters. The world's greatest force. Join. 1J. Civil Service, State, Interstate, and Local. Teachers, ask your pupils many questions of their home life. You have no idea of conditions that might come before your notice. Children remember things. And the most innocent remarks at times lead to the greatest clues of disloyalty and against warring nations. Of course, this requires great judgment on the part of all teachers, whom they ask, I mean. I can only trust to your diplomacy. Everyone on the civil service payroll, Department of Bridges, Public Highways, Parks, Docks and Ferries, Water, Gas and Electricity, Department of Street Cleanings and Kindergartens, and all clerks, whether state or local. This nation is at war. You swore allegiance to your present appointive duty. Well, why not to your country and now? Every one of you can greatly assist in making this entire nation spy-proof. Hesitate not 1 second to ask any suspicious person exactly what they mean by acting in that way which you term suspicious. Meet the leading people in your home office. Discuss the gravity of this gigantic movement. Instruct anyone whose enthusiasm is much beyond their breadth of intellect. Work, yes, but watch your docks and your ferries, and by all means your bridges, and your water and gas, and your electricity too. Forget, for just a little while, your pleasures, and remember that by throwing our solid spirit into this movement now, we are doing what it will take years to do, and immediate future years too, if we let the other fellow do it now. Never let this slip your memory. This country wants our service. The dignity of the nation prevents the asking of it. Can this nation pay us 5 or 6 billions a year? No. But our service gives that much to our allies, and our protection brings the war to an early and victorious close. Rise, America, rise to the pulse of modern times and thought. Posterity is looking you straight in the eye. Are you going to stand up under the greatest move in history? Become a member of the VSS. Join.
American department stores. Every employee in this line of business can now make a name for either sex self. The flower of your community purchase over your counter and daily. You come in contact with all classes and hourly, each day. It is a positive fact that spies have been known to and are working, this minute, in our greater department stores. Why? Because it is the one big medium of the many channels through which these spies cultivate acquaintances whose closer friendship leads to the germ which develops indirect foreign propaganda. Once a clever and intellectual foreigner, or their equally intelligent, though adventurous, dupe, procures the warm friendship of any international sympathizer, you can be sure of a planting that will take some ploughing to again root out of the brain of the easily led person whose carelessness led to so venomous, merciless mal-friendship. This practice is not only one of their great successes, and today, here in America, but in every single nation on earth where they can get a foothold, and today. American folks, weigh your true confidence. Make sure that you talk sympathy with only those whom blood claims a holy tie, your family. Keep your eye on both the distinguished working girl who tells you that her relatives lost a fortune abroad because of the war, also the misled couriers whose promises for their aid will never be fulfilled other than for the greed of a few traitorous dollars. Don't permit of anyone to help use good Americanism as a stepping stone that they might attain their aim. Instill into your minds timid thoughts. This is a war of humanity and freedom only. The future of us all belong to our country, and the only way to protect that freedom is by loyal vigilance. Nothing else will accomplish it. We must become a unit. Never mind your store detectives. Forget them. So many can only watch so many. But the VSS watches every living soul. Honor your country by your active service. Save the head of your concern sleepless nights. Have him honor his employees too. Visit and enroll in your home headquarters now. Tell America that we are awake to all emergencies. Your activity helps support the Army and Navy save this nation many billions, end the war and reduce the expenditures, and with honor and victory. From the wrapping girl to the delivery boy, keep your eyes open for all people who attempt to advocate anything that intimates intrigue against the good and sacred graces of the country, in or out of your place of employment. Take a special pride in reporting to your VSS anything that bespeaks of plotting or treason. Watch your country's future. Get together, talk about and join the VSS at once. 1L. American Employers. Since it is the will of God that this nation shall have become the greatest of all liberty-loving nations upon this earth, and that all people are considered as equal, and where the press voices the sentiment and convictions of all the people all of the time, it is your solemn, sole and holy duty to gather round you and in the name of this government all of your family, and your employees, and to say to them in a voice strong as you hope your business shall remain sound, having brought before our notice and in these climactic days of both history and humanity, who can deny the power of what shall yet become the financial savior of our entire immediate resources, the new child of the Republic, the silent army of the VSS? Who can deny that the making of a nation spy-proof ties one hand of any enemy? Nor can anyone deny that the crippling of an enemy cuts the war in half, because to so deny means that you are not abreast of modern times. And today we must march not only abreast of the times, but far ahead of them. Otherwise we retrograde. This must not happen. It cannot happen. The secret of our home success has been placed before us. We have but to grasp it. I myself wish to declare that my full services are hereby freely given to the great army of the VSS. An equal action on the part of every member of this concern shall be honored not only by myself or by this state, but, I am sure, by the government of the United States. Place on the roll of honor here in this city your name, and may God bless you one and all. 1M. Ecclesiastic. To every pulpiteer on American soil. The house of God is ever behind every movement that bespeaks of righteousness. It always has been, it always shall be. A Belgian VSS would now find standing as erected and not in solid mass of debris their churches. The world knows this to be a fact. Learned men who stand behind the pulpit equal the world's greatest wisdom. Nor do I fear, and in the face of foreign devastation, their voluntary advocacy of the great army that might, and through their sole constancy to our country, be instrumental in the prevention of what could really happen, and in the traditional wake of foreign destruction. War is war until that war is ended, wholly so. It is war until the end has been announced, an end which is as yet intangible. There must be a beginning to everything, and someone must take the initiative. In the house of God I look to his disciples to come forth with a timely warning. I look to you, disciples, to tell your congregation that the giving of their true conscience to this great movement is equal to the giving to their God their undivided devotion, their souls, spirit, all. I also look to you, disciples, to preach the true category of the present time, that right today means to obstruct faint might only gracing the universe in the haunted background of right, and that to not obstruct this sudden, mad, lily-white desire for devilish power could mean, and I am not writing in the superstitional, the falling of a shell upon the steeple or the very roof of the house of God in which you send forth your heavenly messages. Throw back your robe and speak not the voice of God, but that of the nation. This nation, whose industries carry, and through their children, your churches, has been challenged, their peace molested, and so I ask your sanction of the VSS. Will not you, holy men of the Church, advise in the making of America's spy-proof? 1N. Farms, dairy and depots. It is imperative that you, gentlemen, instruct your general hands in the ability of the VSS that you preserve your entire output, both in health and purity. You must admit the gravity of the thought which tells you how very possible it could be to devastate your service. Health inspectors are in no wise numerous as flies. They cannot be everywhere as can the activity of the VSS. Bacteria can be spread, and by spies, overnight. And you well know what can result from such a daring defy in favor of noxiousness. How, above all else, infant America would suffer. Why could not every milker on your farm be found stiff on the floor of your barn stall tomorrow morning? What precaution have you taken against even arson? Do you know what a milk famine means to an at-war nation? Surely you know. You are now feeding through your industry countless of children whose maturity will figure among those who shall yet hold the reins of destiny of this nation. And to be careless means to touch upon the power of those who, at this minute, are guiding stars of the immediate safety of this entire nation, of which you yourself are an item of its citizenry. To have your general help enroll as members of the VSS, you accomplish this. Everyone is looking to the full interest of not only your safety and success, but that of the nation and the populace. Farmhands, drivers, depot and branch store hands will know of the power, dignity and vigilance of the VSS and act accordingly. You are happy. Discuss it now. We will spread our force across the American continent. It costs only our honor. Every city shall organize. The army has been formed, and we are spy-proof. Join. 1O. Foodstuffs makers. I don't care whether you have taken the utmost precaution in the present sealing up of your product, added to your force of watchers, I mean. You will never equal the service presented to this entire land, and by your entire workers, as that which is now in the making and by the VSS. No spy can long endure in the way of checking your output. Compare it with emissary reports, and, by way of certain assignments, have them later reach the statistician who reports our internal strength, and to the common enemy, if the plant you operate members are united into that most wonderful all-American move in our history, the VSS. So soon as the classes learn that they represent what concerns all classes, just so soon shall the unanimity of its power flash across our land, and with the speed of purpose equal in dignity as is our most blessed word, democracy. The world's future depends upon our today, and tomorrow's carefulness, and it can be covered by us in one way, and only one way, the heart of America way, a healthy way, and a spy-proof way. I myself, the author of this book, will gladly address any and all places of employment in this country, free from cost, and preach the gospel of the VSS. We need it. When your nation thinks at home as the boys fight at the front, why, you win. We must think of only one thing, victory. Keep your foodstuffs free from poison. Remember, the soldiery and the citizenry eat your products. Health wins all wars. Advocate this great movement. Ask your plant to enroll now. Get rid of all spies. 1P. American factories. While we are at war, we are not yet at war proper. For that very reason we now are in a position to prevent whatever sparks of intrigue that patiently rests in the smouldering brains of our uncanny common foes, and before they ever make psychological the placing of the torch to their inhuman hatcheries. A wounded soldier is taken behind the lines, but he never would have reached the line but for one reason, proficiently. The machine-like regularity of our home industry. Suppose we become careless, what then? He, the soldier, would never even have gotten far enough to receive his wound. Mythical as this might sound, it is, nevertheless, exactly what we must prevent. Outwit the fellow who plays the ruthless, no-rule game, and by the eye, ear and brain of the VSS, station a dozen policemen around the square block wherein a criminal is housed, and they will arrest that person. But if the entire households on that block were members of the VSS, I ask you, what chance would that same person have of escape? Settled. Now let us assume that block consists of one large factory, that it is one place which output is of vital importance to our government, and for that reason it must be kept up to capacity output. The owners won't dare admit a possible chance of intrigue against that plant, but the worry they pass through cuts the rest of their lives in half, and the men that operate that plant, or women, gradually scent danger, and therefore endeavor that in the event of same shall strive to protect, and only, number one, because it's only human nature. What then? You face it in any minute stampede, because it's only nature. Now we change the scene. We see the owner come into the plant all smiles. He goes to the nearest box, mounts it, and calls out to his fellow men, "Members of the VSS, you have honored your country by your loyalty to your flag. You have done a great thing. I, too, am proud to say that I am enrolled in this greatest of all modern history movements. May we so stand together that we shall perish from our land, and forever all spies. Our nation has the last word in protection. And so, with a new spirit, may we forget our imaginary timidity of yesterday. In the name of the nation of the flag we love, I say to you, one and all, God bless you. You may then stop worrying, for this land shall become spy-proof, and by the VSS. 1Q. Hospitals, state, city and private. Delirious utterances voiced in illness should, according to the prestige and nationality of the patient, be recorded during a state of war. Nurses of reputation have overlooked the importance of this tangible research war file. All trained nurses should know that they can greatly assist the VSS. Dispensaries should be placed under constant guard, and all medical departments proper should be locked. Night nurses should forget to become even drowsy. We can't chance it. Suspicious patients who pay to have mail dropped for them should cease, and only nurses can stop it. See to it that private rooms hired to run down patients are not used for meetings in private and of a treasonable nature. I am telling you that what I know about spies. People of the medical world need only their cue. They do the job up good too. Suspicious notes passed over a sickbed can be traced very easily. One designated unit daily can pass her chart, if necessary, to number 2, and return shortly with the address of the departed. Reported to the office of the VSS. Ward nurses, keep your prescriptions under lock and key. Unlocking a chest is easier than curbing a plague. Private nurses, enroll in your district hospital. They may need you, because big office now to keep you in private life means to lessen the service. And to those now in the service, look out for those grand office and with big salaries elsewhere. Student nurses are more easily fooled, so we should think our foes believe. This also applies to our student doctors. Don't let yourselves ever forget that we are at war, and that we need you, all of you, and that with the hospitals of America lined up strong for the great movement of the VSS, we are not only the greatest protected nation on earth, but spy-proof. Big business heads who are one of this great army will invite you, doctors and nurses, to visit their plants to discuss health conditions, and, therefore, you will find that you shall now be able to greatly honor not only your membership to the VSS, but your profession, in that you will address great throngs of workers in the art of personal health preservation and wartime carefulness. Join the VSS. 1R. American Hotels. No real American wants to be guilty of residing in that hotel wherein plots are in the making and against this country. Modern hotels have thousands of rooms beneath a single structure. These same hotels never have more than one head, and from on to 4 assistants, house detectives. No hotel can afford a larger staff. Now the minute you mention, and to the entire staff, that the VSS is covering every hotel in this country, that minute you get results. Before this great movement became a fact, no one or more persons would undertake the authority to infringe upon the privacy of conspiracy. no one seemed to care. But the moment you make a movement national, that moment you make it individual. Being at war, we have turned our nation into a solid, safe and sane Secret Service force, and overnight. Every city office officials will see that no gas reports become active, which method will make our great order real and not theoretical. Wise heads will weigh things before passing them to that ultra body, USSS, and so switchboard girls will keep in touch with the desk with every maid, and all bell and page boys, and the maids, in turn, and with the desk. House detectives always have been busy watching crooks. They now can concentrate. Waiters, bartenders, counter-tenders, checkers and code girls, every hotel employee forms a part of the great body unit, the spy-proof unit of the VSS. Useless as they've always been, and to every country converts to the harlotries, and the less useless parasites, whose presence maim every decent hostelry, are requested to try and respect this great order by keeping their names off the rolls of the VSS. This is a special request by the author, who loves their absence. Now, with the entire staff, VSS and all guests, transients at home in every city, you have the solving of the greatest American obstacle in the palm of your hand, killing spy moves. Get together, hotel men, assist, locate, build up the guard behind the firing lines. 1S. American horticulturists and florists. Examine your flowers, see to it that no strange insects infest your growth. You are fully aware, when brought before your notice, what certain insects can do to our flower lovers, particularly those who thoughtlessly, or through habit, place them against their nostrils. Advocate against this habit during the war. It is a spy trick. We can't have any of our big men and women on their backs, waiting for the family doctors to discover a new way to saw through the human skull. We certainly cannot. So to prevent it all, you have but to stop smelling flowers. Florists, there is no good reason for your hesitancy. You won't lose a single customer, so go ahead and tell the public to stop smelling. War means health, and we're going to win. The only cost to any member of the VSS is honor to your country and flag. Our activity saves the nation billions, and those billions per year, figure it out, would, if the nation had to pay for our service, support our army and navy. This way we make spy-proof, gratis, and the amount actually saved permits of the nation to so finance our allies that we are assured of peace on earth, yes, and forever. That is what you are doing, America, now and for Christian universe. Look at the movement straight in the eye, make up your mind, talk about it, and enroll.
American inventors. Since your nation is at war, it, therefore, behooves you to practice reticence. Yours could be the one invention that your country needs, but it also could be that one which you could awaken to find destroyed. Blame one of your jealous friends is about exactly what you would do. Friend gone, invention gone. If you had not confided in your friends, which is natural, they could never have so innocently boosted your genius to one of our foreign emissaries, a spy. You see now what I am getting at? We have been taught to become careful, perforce. To do otherwise would be to sacrifice the future of our posterity. This we cannot, dare not, even think of doing. For this reason, the silent army is now in the field. Inventors, to be such, you must first possess an imagination. Weigh it. Use it. Tell all whom you know that you are an active member of the new national child, the new ironclad baby of this nation, the VSS, and may God grant its progress. 1. You, American miners. Gentlemen of the mining world, your prolific output substantiates all wheels of American industry, both directly and indirectly. Without your services, we become an immediate, retrogressive mass of impotency. To invalidate your industry is to but court the instant embarrassment of your many families, financial suffering. You all know what you are to this government, what you mean to it, at present, now. Nor have you ever before in the history of this or any other nation come face to face with that problem which can so very easily solve the spy propaganda. That awful menace that has worked so smoothly, daringly, in our very midst, and for the near past 3 constant years. America can solve anything when put to the acid test. We have been challenger by that same test, now, and equally fast have we had the extreme pleasure to step upon the highways of our free existence, and with one mighty shout call out, "We are ready. Our die is cast. Come on, you spies. You are called upon by the mightiest army on earth to assemble in your district. Shake hands across the American continent. Link and interlink our great, broad chain against any and all spy methods, that we may pave the way to future love, progressiveness, liberty. And for these things, and as one, let us rise, rise. And upon you and for all time shall smile the great and earthly gods of peace. Elect your competent officers for the VSS. Locate where you may communicate, and at once, with all sub- and intercity branches. Organize your entire district. Learn to fully realize that our combined effort can cut this war in half. That intrigue must go, and at once. That war will cease. Our resources will remain intact. Loans shall revert to us. Freedom to the world will come. And to us, holy peace. But to get these things we must fight like our foes tried to treat us, but not with the same bludgeon. No, but with our combined vigilance and our brains. The VSS is equal to the task. Avow yourselves to its membership, you Americans. And now. Forward march. For labor, for future dignity, for right. VSS. Forward march. And until that day when we again lower from the masts our American flag, let there be no halt in our vigilance, no command other than march, 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 enroll. Section 1V, American Merchants. You gentlemen are in the best position possible to devote yourselves to the cause of the movement which will, eventually, permit of you to look into the faces of those whom you love and say, "Our wonderful activity has brought this war to an early close. But for our allied constancy to both our flag and our country, we might even now be in the midst of our only near-past world's conflict. That's exactly what the impression of our mind masses will be, in short, after the war. For that very reason we must not dare neglect our immediate duty to the VSS. To do so is to but tamper with the golden lock that hangs conspicuously upon that gate to freedom, behind which lies the road that leads to all-time flowery freedom. Dispose of your mental wares that you may add to the glory of the movement which you so proudly represent, that you might stimulate the apprehension of all well-considered spy attempts against any and all arms of the American preparedness. When you give your conscience to this movement, you enter as an equal, as is the spirit of your country, as an ardent member in history that knows only the term impartiality, where men, women, and boys and girls, all are equal in this great order, equal in the combined desire to create a worldwide phrase, spy-proof America. Start to discuss the movement. Inquire of your nearest office. Go there and enroll. Make it a point to become active, now. It means the future of the universe, so advocate it. Teach its gospel to your children. Awaken from somewhere amongst our midst that dormant genius which shall rise, and overnight, to flaming heights of leadership. Opportunity is knocking, people, so cast aside fetters which, heretofore, mocked your inner attempts at fame back into that ghost-like state of inertia, and rise. Breast of the times holds out to you all the sacred cross, liberty, and the laurel wreath of honor, an active membership in the spirit movement, VSS. Now. Section 1W, Munition Plants. No longer think that your daily toil distributes to the world implements of dire destruction, epistles of death, torture, and the like, for it absolutely does not. To those whose thirst for fiendish desire could not be appeased even by the holy passages in Scripture, we herewith place before that identical, those, a new American Bible, the book that reads of passages that count. Through a free nation we have an inner ruler whose laws are written in ink, erasable only upon death itself. When our children rewrite it, the super law of American conscience, look up at the cold stone over your workshop door tomorrow as you enter upon your daily toil. What do you see? Only plain, cold stone, eh? Look again. Look hard. From behind your first glance you feel a faint prompting, an urging. Then your eyes give way to the gods imaginary, mythical. Inscribed o'er that door, transom, you read the sacred words of Christianity. Those who enter here perform only the saintly duties of universal peacefulness. You, gentlemen, are molding together, and with every shell, a new brick in that endless road of democratic worldwide desire, the imperturbable road, to quiet, no fear of attack or intrigue, days of innocently free and independent tomorrows, gloriously countless years upon years of tomorrows, millions upon millions of years to come. All things else have been tried. They failed. And as the last resort, we too have had to proclaim ourselves the new disciples of His last infinite request, peace on earth. And we are going to preserve that peace, even if we must adorn that image robe of Christ Himself. Since wisdom of a very Solomon has been called weakness, we can do naught else but build our pulpit behind the cannon's mouth. Men of the munitions plants, with every dispatched shell, so have you spoken a new word in a new way, and through our new national Bible. And in the near future our new book will be new American history. Meanwhile, we must not allow any spy work cause any kind of industrial cessation. Be careful. Blown-up plants and dead people will hold up the quick printing of our Bible, the reading of freedom in free lands. I write these words as a prophet from the masses, and only with my country in mind, and its golden future liberty. To have our industry, and as a man, turn VSS, means this: authority to think and act in all cases of suspicion, to know that the nation is behind your vigilance, that your plant, and from the owner to the newest man, are members of the VSS, and that your headquarters acts in all reports and at once. That's the power that stands behind the VSS, and it shakes hands across this whole nation. The nation will love us for our loyalty, our organization, known around the globe. Perish your fear. Your plant is buzzing with the new power. Every man is a VSS. Heads of your concern will join. They will honor you, and you, your country. Pass the world of solid suspicion to your nearest brother member. In an hour, the plant knows just who the spy is. Later, your office. Spies are dealt with accordingly, but be sure that you make no mistake in your suspicion. Rise, the nation is with you. All America is with you. So rise, men, rise, and make America spy-proof. Enroll. Now. Section 1X, American Manufacturing Plants. Regardless of your state in life, you may now become an equal member of one mighty organization, which membership is the cornerstone of our populace, an order which slogan shall be, masses' brains combined with the genius of the many may evolve into the sensational execution and be construed in the entirety as being the direct national accomplishment of a conscientious unity, the VSS. Citizens in mind, but not yet in naturalization, listen. We of America look to you for what you can give to us in both freedom of spirit and endeavor, for the test of your real zeal and love for that flag under whose banner you have long since forgotten, insofar as constancy be concerned, as being your permanent home, your birthland. If you have so both done and thought, your loyalty to the VSS proves it beyond all doubt. You are therefore, as part of us, invited to join in and with us in the wrapping around your soul, and now the true sentiment of the new army of the VSS. All Americans understand. Others can see and feel the meaning of the protection of them and by our dignity, which has sufficed to make them rally to the new order of national obliteration of all spies, and for us, all and all for the time, forever. Whether at home or in your place of daily livelihood, keep before your mind's eye this constant thought. Never overlook anything that might mean the leading up to the direct destruction of either your place of business, by fire or other method, or some public or private arm of the government which swears to protect both you and yours, and for always enduring your citizenry to this nation. Is not this only proving that you love the honor of returning only that which you have received, free protection? We are now engaged in giving all of our resources, if needs be, to continue that protection. Will you not uphold this sacred right? We are, as a body, and from coast to coast, behind this almighty movement. VSS. Now. Section 1Y, American Navigators. The submarine is something that we will overcome. No sleep will American genius lose over the thought of this thing becoming, and an early one, too, fact. What we must always worry over has now been solved, getting rid of aboard-ship spies. Therefore, that past worry having been solved, we now have only to tighten around all methods of navigable intrigue, our chain of priceless vigilance, the VSS. Navigators and crews, let no one ship whose slightest action comes under the title of sound suspicion. All ports in our land will acknowledge as official priceless vigilance, the VSS. Should you overlook suspicion before your departure of any one or more persons, make sure of your wireless operator. This done, have him flash the nearest port whose USSS will meet and relieve you of your spies, and affidavits of said of methods treason. Then make your destined port. Always inform passing ships of your every arrest. It will add to their vigilance. This means both ocean and inter-ocean liners, as well as all our tourists, state and interstate. In fact, all things that float and to traffic. Contraband cargoes will, I feel sure, be, if reported by any member of the VSS, highly commended ever by the most dignified holders of the nation's most important office powers. Hoist, and in some conspicuous boat part, your new loyal guidon, VSS. Never let carelessness cause you to fail to discuss this great movement to all of your crew, and daily, and take it up with all passenger members, you captains. Welcome in every port. It is advisable that all crew members enroll in their home port, as it then gives a broader working knowledge of the order, and from a many-port viewpoint. Selves, families, nation, the great move protects us all. Talk it over daily. Section 1Z, American Oil Wells. Gushers can be destroyed in many ways. The most disastrous way being that of the use of dynamite. Close by the sudden flow there will be found, if this ground is examined, and for any such catastrophe were it to happen, ramified electric wires. These wires are heavily charged. Result, explosion, then conflagration. Spies do not work in the singular. Oh no, never have. Attacks are done in the plural. And for that reason I warn all industries, and not only oil wells, whose interest is centered either wholly or partly on oils, to be careful. This is one branch of our national industry that we must keep intact from any and all spy moves. Well fields, local tank containers, I specify the conduit method. Think hard. We are face to face with the system by which all dangers can be overcome, and now. The world's greatest spy rake will soon scratch across our dear continent. Equally fast will that same be heard around the Christian world, and also shall it fall upon the ears of lost effort people of intrigue, with a force heavy to so shock the cerebrum of this same people as to stagger even their arch-reason. To all those whose efforts engage in the co-assistance of keeping the wheels of this government so greased that no cog can ever become spy-wedged for even an hour, I say, never allow your nation, in wartime, to suffer the danger of submission to even temporary brain fog. And no man is an indefatigable super-thinker, which is the exact reason of the necessity of the service of the VSS, that greatest thinkers of this nation may be given the chance to temporarily think, and deeply and carefully, and fully and truly, between the lines. The constant vigilance of the VSS will permit of our higher officials to so indulge in this pleasure. So plain, dear America, isn't it, that even they need rest, and our help? You of the oil field, mobilize, dispatch your names by courier to the nearest office, anyway, even via Paul Revere route, to count your flag stars and look straight into the patriotic eyes of the future of us all, America. Join now. Section 2A, American Office Buildings. Had your eye on so-and-so for a long time now, haven't you? Guess there isn't anything wrong with... Never would have said that had the VSS been in the spy move field, would you? Well, you're now able to resent any such action, so go ahead. Office buildings are the mecca for certain spy incubators, whose feigned lawfulness almost succeeded in their inexplicable attempt to sanction our innocent lethargy against any too hasty entrance into a proved too greater delayed, absolutely inevitable conflict. Watch these arch, saintly, well supplied with money, though triple-robed, foreign, gifted legists. Beyond eye for eye, their orders. Where they are, so are their wires, or cars in touch with your private businesses. And we are the host of 250,000 of them, plus at least 3 dupes per spy. There are only 3 men to every woman, too. Look out for that vixen. Only information against your country is their sole aim, which also means disruption. Heads of all offices, from the lobby to the roof, advocate to all the VSS. Spy dupes usually work, so some must employ them. That's why I say, enroll now. Section 2B, Officialdom, State. Political brains of this nation, you acquaint yourselves with, and daily, the prime intellects of this country. Of course, you also meet distinguished foreign gentlemen. That distinguished foreign coterie is, I suppose, very bitter against all spies. But this nation is at war. It therefore behooves us to just and only listen. The best way to teach a spy a master lesson is to put the combination of an entire state and national utterance safe. Henceforth, all personal questions may be bowed out of, and most apologetically, and with only one thing in mind. Should that person ever again attempt to even intimate the prosecution of an already restricted answer to any question relative directly or indirectly, or touching in any way, on so delicate a subject as war, I should consider that person as capable of being placed under the surveillance of the VSS. So gifted are these ladies and gentlemen in the art of taking advantage of the psychological movement that only the most carefully prepared conversationalist can overcome their arch feign at common foe antagonism. Some people hate to think that they may wrongly accuse. Suspicion is suspicion, though, and war means the tombstone to timidity. The spy's delight is to mix with the family of the acquainted statesman. There is a reason for everything, you know, and also a greater reason for overcoming it. Officers, don't. See to it that your staff don't talk. Help make America spy-proof. You gentlemen can do it. Advocate the power of the great army, the VSS.
American Physicians. Never before, gentlemen, has the history of your profession offered a more splendid opportunity to assist your country than at this time. As a body, you can make yourselves loved by the entire membership of the VSS. Countless are the times that your good offices have been visited, and by persons wide open to suspicion. Your Bible word is reticence, I know, but your country's name is, at present, war. We ask no divulgence of professionalism, no, not that, but your spy-proof wisdom. The combined brains of the nation for the nation is the nation's present need, a medical knowledge upon which degree we can pivot our prowess, that we might so substantiate all possible spy moves as to render impossible action on the part of these no-man's-land culprits, is our especial desire and thorough and patriotic aid of your ever highly essential profession. When you belong to the VSS, you will more fully realize that part of your honor to your country will be to strongly advise both your contact nurses and neighboring druggists against any method other than loyalty and to the world's greatest war movement, the VSS. You too should resolve that this nation shall become spy-proof, that you hope to lecture on the event, that you will become part of it, that all previous hesitancy is dead, that you have lived again and in the flame of the new order's life, that you will strive to suppress contagious diseases or plague, and that enactors of such shall suffer the discretion of the VSS, that attempts at state distress shall at once be dispatched to the order's office, that it shall be assumed that weaklings are subject to hire for property destruction, and for this reason are dangerous to any wartime, say nothing of peacetime, community. Therefore, and to direct all spy preventives against specific hirelings such as are these, it will be essential that all victims of narcosis be known to the members of the VSS. Doctors, through the pulse of the flag the nation calls. Do you hear? Answer now. 2D. American Preservers of Foodstuffs. You gentlemen are now the commanding chiefs of the greater percentage of the stomachs of America. War means that that country at war will, if subjected to a lengthy conflict, greatly rely upon all purveyors of the then indispensable commodity, canned goods. I trust you all to accept your commissions with spirit equal to that confidence which this nation deems necessary to now thrust upon you, vigilance. Seal all your canned and bottled goods under the strict surveillance of the members of the new silent army, the VSS. Nor will you regret the loss of any order because of ptomaine poisoning, which blow at the delicacy of the masses is another master trick enactment from the spy box. Also will there be kept immune from any and all attacks, and during the war, your cooperative industry. That is in itself a credit to both nation and industry. Prevail upon the entire link members of the chain of your industry to assemble, and as a solid chain, that they may mold themselves within the national, maze-wide unity of the VSS. The eyes of health are upon you. Advocate VSS. 2E. American Restaurateurs. Among your diners and daily, hourly, yes, minutes, can be seen imaged America. And to honor the prestige of so brilliant a patronage, one must become war careful. How do you know just who it is that would, and by a journey to heaven, meet with approval of all spies. Usually we find that the innocent dispenser of service is backed toward the spy. Result, the loss of a wartime celebrity, which must not, but which positively can happen, and a business and reputation. Can either the nation or you afford this loss? No. Is not this a message of warning to all restaurateurs? Yes? Well, take it then, and from whence it comes, a voice from the heart of America, a unit of the masses, an American. I would expect deaf ears to this warning, to never forgive oneself for preventing what can very easily happen, but which can now be evaded, and by constant loyalty to the VSS. Don't let any spy use your reputation as a medium through which method aim can be attained. Cashiers and house detectives can't be all over, and shouldn't be expected to be. But all restaurant help can be. Thus we tighten the chain of national safety. Only your country and its future thought must you awaken in your very souls, the protection of that emblem that must wave in forever, and in freedom, our flag. Let us stand together and, in one echo, send clear around the world the voice of the Iron Guard behind the trenches. America and the VSS stands ready to sweep clean and keep clean our country of all spies. Members, assemble to your order. 2F. American Ranch Owners. Prairie fires, cattle rustling, water and food poisoning, plague inoculation, all such tricks, arson inclusive, can now be blocked to either the emissary or spy. Give a cowboy a gun, and he will use it when he meets trouble. But tell that same cowboy that the nation honors him as a unit of loyalty to the national spy movement, that his activity helps preserve the food of the nation. What then? Why, he stops waiting for possibilities. He can't help it. It's traditional. And with the nation behind this movement, strong in the West as it is in the East, equally strong are all roads which lead to the Golden Gate, spy-proof. And so can we say to all beneath-the-skin Americans, the future of your nation is safe. But we cannot begin by tolerating either supposition or conjecture. Nor can we even start to idolize the imaginary. We must clasp hands against what we know positively could happen, has happened, is this minute happening, and which happenings can be wiped out only by the entire nation turning VSS. Thus you have the plain picture painting before your very eyes. No sane person can deny facts, and those who know will not, and so do we teach the lesson into the world. Not only do we give an army and navy, but we support it in this way. Airtight against spies cuts a war in half. Resources remain intact. Debts reduce 1/2, millions of lives are saved, and billions of dollars. There is the secret of the Holy Cross which you bear, your solemn duty to both America and the VSS. Will not all people behind the lines and across the continent membership it now? Mobilize in your district. Our spirit will strengthen the soldiery too. Join. 2G. American Railroads. If our common foe delights in the thought of having intermingled the ranks of all enemies with their soldiery, if they claim as their art in military destruction, then I say, and to you of the four-wheeled world, not only can they not invade our army and navy, but they cannot even pierce the lines of the VSS. Gentlemen, you are so strongly entrenched and with the wisdom of the nation, and with its vital organs of existence, life, food, fuel, materials, minerals, in fact, all beings and things that make you into an already capable army, and second to that of the uniformed forces, that you have now only to concentrate to overwhelm the most ghastly move emissary, and upon this soil, and during our most worthy conflict. Organize, and from your ticket office to your locomotive engineer, and let it be known that the eyes, ears, and brains of the traffic world is open to detection of any and all things treasonable against this nation and during our armed array. that the railroads of America and to a man have gone VSS. Forget entirely the very fact that there exists in your world a police force, and for the simple and sane reason that these poor boys are even now doing machine work, and in every capacity in this country today, and that any greater request is beyond either their brain or physical prowess, that sleepless speed already is their aim in honor to their flag. As a nation we relax, that they may breathe freely and just for a few hours, and recuperate the Allies' police forces of America. All forces, whether government or state or city, will idolize your timely human help. Ticket agents and depot baggage men and porters, stand together, keep in the closest touch with your depot police headquarters. All workers of the freight and sleeper yards, look out. Signal and ground switchmen, make your new god that one to whom we must learn to bow, vigilance. Engineers and firemen, eyes front. Don't look straight through, use the eye axis, up and down and around. Look hard, too, for you are now soldiers of the nation. Conductors and brakemen and porters, you are now members of the guard, salute. Keep in close touch with the passengers. Help them, they are members too, and will help you. After your inspection, inform your engineer that all aboard looks safe this run. These men need aid and courage, now. They have families too. If suspicious passengers disboard, no matter where the point, notify that station, by written notice, VSS. That is, scratch down a description of these people, you can know when they are leaving the train, and throw it to that station in charge man. Being one of us, he will know or she. Suspicious characters may go ahead on the next train, stay there or go back again. It all depends on the appointive place of meeting, to actuate their spy work. Again, gentlemen, you are guardians of our most vital organs. The national trumpet is blowing its true heart blast. To those who hear, fall in, and so will march the army of the VSS. 2H. American Railroad Surface Car Lines. All streetcar line operators, such as motormen, conductors, and inspectors, have an excellent opportunity to now exercise their most perfect earshot. You never can tell just what you may hear, and relative to things that may lead up to things that might evolve a heretofore accidental overlooking of a spy plot. You must learn to believe that these people are located in every walk in your public life, and have been for 3 years past, and that we are now going to rid this country of them, and for good and all time. We've got to get rid of them, all at one time. To leave one behind would be like leaving behind a few flies in July. An ill brain will certainly breed new eggs, so we might just as well make a clean sweep. The answer: make inquiries as regards the location of that office in your district. Don't hesitate a second to become known as an active member to the order whose specific and solemn duty is to obliterate all those whose endeavor has been, and long since so, and against the heart freedom of citizenry America, to disrupt the eternal liberty of the cornerstone of universal idolatry, Americanism. 2I. American Railroad, all subway lines. From terminal to terminal, you boys can shake hands with each other, and in the name of the VSS. Never forget that a time fuse explosive is a perfectly can-happen proposition. You say, we watch everyone who enters and leaves. All right, fine. But suppose you were just looking into space, against some obstacle trying to see through a crowd, or through lights-out ebony darkness, A subway jam cannot be seen through, and everybody knows that, but spies can. Before you leave your terminal, conductors, examine all mechanism beneath those cars which you operate. Each man will then know that no car which he operates will ever hold, and secreted under either seat or car proper, any explosive. This settled, All track walkers will examine all walls and overhead architecture, together with that of all tracks, beneath all heaped material and in all darkened corners. Hollow sounds behind any subway walls proper might develop a few startling things were they at once pursued, and during chaotic times. Rivers and mountains have been drilled through, why not walls? Station ticket offices. You get drowsy around 3 or 4 a.m., you of the night shift, don't you? If you did that now, and in uniform, you would be court-martialed at once, and on general order charges. Don't leave everything to the fellow upstairs. From now on, remember, your nation is at war. Everyone who passes you by, and who looks suspicious, should be investigated at once. Alone? Telephone the next station. Try to designate the car that or those persons are riding in. You already have given the conductor the information. He will be on the lookout for next station assistance, provided no uniformed or known officer is at this time riding. Printed slips should be put in operation. The original writer can then keep a copy of his slip, which will bear his capacity, time, place, and number. Station or car number, too. And so can the slip pass along until some authority can take it up for action. But you must remember that officers must account for their time, hence the slip. But in all likelihood, you won't have to go that far. All around you, and probably watching that same person or persons, you will find members of the VSS. This way, the entire populace is behind you. All are one, a unity, and all for the one idea, our flag. Vigilance means a quick victory. Negligence, strife and regret. Which do you choose? The only expense, your honor. Shake hands with the stars and stripes, and now.
Residential travelers. Heretofore, it was only traditional that you go to the morning paper for any and all information as regards spies and their activities. Now, all is different. You visit the VSS office, show your card, the index is run over in a second, your name is located, and you are given the information that no newspaper can use or publish until we have given them that information, which is only after action has been taken by the government agents to whom we forward all information. This courtesy is afforded all travelers whose home city card proves membership. And it is to this same office, regardless of just what city you might then be in, that you, Mr. Traveler, will file your reports, information relative to all spies. And so will you create a host of new friends, whose merits you will long cherish. This way we will get to the bottom of things relative to our national spy system. It will strengthen our method into the highest state of continental efficiency, a broader field of exploit open to our brilliant young men whose firm integrity they hold in their hands' palm, and add to the general safety of this nation tenfold over any and all past or present manifold efforts at spy obliteration. Nor shall this nation ever fail to thank all those whose citizenry vigilance work itself up into that wonderful magical word of all words, love. Love is success, and the sooner we gather together our nation, form a love pact, and make that one and only glorious emblem our sweetheart, just so soon shall we have peace, with very high and distinguished honor, too. This is a war of individuality. No one can look straight in the face of the situation in its entirety and fail to do other than bow to the idol of truth in the acknowledgment of this, as yet to be learned, and I hope not before the door of light thought, negligence, nemesis, fact. Since no two people ever think alike, even in those cases which cover what might be classed as being psychological coincidences, everybody, no exclusives, who fail to look with other than a heavy conscience and concentrate upon the greater than cannon war subject, spy, will soon learn to become more friendly with the name, and with a lifelong regret, and if a 5-year war tax which can be wiped out in 2 years isn't a serene regret, well, we have lost in the maze somewhere our entire sentiment, that's all. Remember that spies can never so hurt this country as to annex Coney Island, but they can make us, and by their method, fight like hell, and for our preservation, and for 5 long years. Do you want to pay those bills? Oh no, say you? But that don't go in the alphabet. You do. And if you bought all the exempt bonds on sale, you couldn't beat the market. You pay. Why? How? You know that Uncle Sam must be a smart chap to have raised so large a family, don't you? It really is beyond me. And say, Dowie would be a piker. But let us go back to bonds. Sooner we clean the national slate, just so soon will this issue of bonds be called in. You know how you feel about that mortgage hanging over that so-and-so piece of property around the corner, don't you? Longer you linger on the hard luck story with the mortgage, the more you pay. When a government finds itself in hock, it tries to get out. It goes looking for the method by which the slate can be cleaned, and in a hurry. Because foreclosures are bad actors, are awful tragedies, and would, if enough took place, exhaust the settler's power market, forgetting entirely that great life-shortening thought, poverty and exposure. A government is run on the same basis. It will, if you allow her, call in bonds. This done, rehabilitation starts in on a tremendous footing, and resources again become intact, an essential which, unless it can be done, renders any country subject to vital exposure of arch, subsequent attack, and henceforth triple hell. And the man whose editorials educated me will tell you, Arthur Brisbane. Should this happen, don't forget that we are at war, and that statecraft is only salesmanship in the higher mathematics, and that it can happen, will happen, if they can stick it over, which means getting even for our present participation. What about the bonds? Maybe your great-grandchildren will get them, and maybe they won't. That's war. It's the mortgage stunt all over again. Why? Foreclosure means credit. Lost, you lose. War terminates. Nation heavily indebted. Everything starts rolling. When, bang! We are into another war. China, Japan, Mexico. Somebody wants a concession. They think we are caught napping, and we would be, actually speaking. But of course we would also turn right around again and fight. What would that sound like? A dream? You would know better then, and now is the time to prevent it. Weigh the possibilities. Loosen up on the Liberty loan. Get results quickly. Get it over with, and now. You stop dreaming and waiting, and remember that a quick finish is going to prevent any and all nations from any and all future attempts to even try to butt in on our calm, cool, and collective methods of future general resuscitation. Each day at the track, you see the previous day bookie touting. Why? Overconfidence. That can, and it almost broke, England. That nation showed the world's mightiest wisdom imaginable to all future modernism by submitting to truth, by casting aside all pride, by trusting us to so benefit by that truth that we will evade that same awfully fateful stop over pride. And that is exactly what we are absolutely not doing. We have got to go by England. Either that or stand still. And the first along that line is to get rid of every spy on this continent. The next step, money. And the more you hand to this government now, the quicker it will accomplish what we are after. Peace with honor, victory. And the quicker you can sell your bonds, or be sure of their future par. But if you are buying those bonds other than with a war viewpoint, you are creating an act of conscious treason. You are admitting that you have no interest, that you are playing safe, and you will regret the day that you didn't think about America first. Regret. Nothing exempts your conscience, let alone a patriotic condensation in favor of mere money. This must be our Bible, to see to it that we put this country in a position to clear their bond debt soon after the war as possible, which will put the warning in the word dare to any nation whose design it is to start something, and in view of the fact that we cannot fight at that time because we owe too much money. If we linger a year, and France and England wants too much money, and can't get it, and lose, we don't get their billions upon billions that they owe us. Not in this decade, anyhow. Settled. That money, together with what this nation will owe to the public in bonds, couldn't be paid until the foreign loan was replaced, and as a simple matter of protection to ourselves. But the interest, yes. But for every hour and every dollar we spend and got, we would have to pay the price. Strife. And with the thought ever before us that this nation was subject to attack, and by those who knew too well our circumstances, and because of a war which we did not go at with our souls, and forgot the bigness of our pocketbooks. We must get up on our toes, rise to the occasion, do this thing quickly, or live to remember that we had a war that we cannot ever forget. And that means the dollar bill. Make America spy-proof. Take an active interest in the Liberty loans. You might as well do it now as to know that later on you must do it or lose your freedom. A freedom of hard times that will make us look like we were bankrupt in regrets. The minute a nation asks for $5 billion and gets it in a day or two, this is the result. What's the use of fighting a nation busy fighting among themselves in their effort to purchase bonds? Moral effect wins wars too, remember that. But if we get together now and go hand in hand and kill the spy move and give to this country all the money they want, and when they want it, and don't embarrass our treasurer by having him tour the country to convince you of the fact that I have already made plain, we will win this fight and in a hurry. Forget that we are in any way making an appearance. We are not. Washington sees the writing on the wall. It asks your confidence. It can't give all its secrets, but those state secrets are your future protection. So, believe, America. Believe. Take action, think, and give now. The bond issue and the VSS means quick peace and love and liberty. Enroll now. 2K. Residential America. America, see to it that no home employs any person that appears to be under the influence of foreign spies, or that male or female is not a direct spy. This means all places of abode, whether apartment houses, private dwellings, or country seats, flats, tenements, or boarding houses. Apartment houses proper can so regulate their cognizance that every tenant can be truly understood both in method and visiting associates, and the elevator boys can act as sentries, and tips shouldn't let them forget that their country is at war, and I don't think that it will. Landlords ought to talk to tenants, too. They know what taxes mean. Everybody does. Solid American tenants should meet. A closer friendship during the conflict is almost a necessity, because cooperation is the best point in favor of the VSS. Private dwellings should know the history of their household, and country seat owners should have a trustworthy person to prevent any private conspiracy part. Flats, especially those whose premises sometimes hold queer meetings, other than those just common gambling, should be made known, and their method of queerness. Tenement houses are a more or less mecca for the emissary's dupes or the spy. Careful consideration can ascertain enough knowledge from these side street dwellings to promptly consider whether or not they hold any one or more spies. It is but the weighing of their movements carefully that will convince any and all members of the VSS just how far they can proceed before routine apprehension. But the boarding house is the identical spot to locate the very shrewd spy. All boarding houses should know the element of their business indulged in, and by any persons who reside under the roof of a reliable household. In fact, I believe that all such premises will do their duty to the country who upholds their citizenry. Find out who lives under your roof, and during the war. And all rooming houses and landlords, too. Report all strange things and happenings to the office nearest your residence, the VSS. Everyone is doing the same thing, and will keep on cleaning this land and until peace comes to us again, of spies. How many of you have not already thrilled at the facing of the very thought of that horrible death? When we almost drown, we only know one word, help. When the gruff character jumps out of the darkness and upon us, we think, this thing would kill if I dare resent. So you hand over your valuables. Next day you report it to the police. But it is past now, and you feel brave again. I ask you only one question. Excluding insanity, of course, how many murderers now in the death house are there who would think twice if only they could enjoy freedom all over again? They have had time to weigh their thoughts, and in deep, soul-deep, and heartmost logic. Carelessness now, and on our parts, places us in an even more distressing state than even those that have but to await the inevitable hour. But they know, we can never know, other than that invasion means a more excruciating, painful death. The menace of greed once upon our shores, then what? Have you no imagination? Do you women court what I cannot write, inexplicable treatment, knowing that the one and only climax can be but the glisten of the blood-soaked bayonet? Would you like to see triflings, Americans? Don't overstep adventure this time. Would you like to see your loved ones hanging in effigy? Forget all about this almighty dollar then, won't you? Why? Because you shall then have awakened to a fact, a true state of affairs, and all because you wouldn't believe your flag. Give all you had then, give your persons, then your lives, and before your newly awakened but too late eyes, you would see your men breathe their last, and in the one eye, every eye I mean, that everlasting flicker of sorrow, mistake, death. You can never doubt but that you would, were you only able to rise again, rise, and as a body, one, shout, are all to you and forever, all, Woodrow Wilson, all. In the name of Almighty God, why, I ask why? Since we possess the same brains, only less clouded, I ask, why not now? Now, in the name of humanity, now! Age cannot bring youth, but youth age, and so could young America become old. You must know that 1 year's sacrifice is greater than 50 retrogressive ones. Look out, you screech in admonishment of all danger. But America, with only a strip of water between deafening, treacherous guns, mountain high, war, smoke and blood drop bigness, and a cross-water venom that has scorched our souls, what do you do? Shame our spirit, our Bible, word-wise our enemy of our new disease, that of lethargy. Cabaret nonchalance? Listen you. Here Mikado is going to stump speech the Liberty Loan, and Vixens, discussing the Honorable Red Cross, the one order whose valor bows only to women, and to order just females it means distance, enchantment. Tear great pieces out of the heart of dignified statesmanship, if you will, but it cannot deter the effort of that gentleman from whom capital desk you drag him, that he might save from themselves you, and you, America, you, that eternal freedom may reign. To those who will not hear, military suicide can be but their only aim. Patriots, assemble, lest you dare to bathe in frightful mire, than that still channel of calm, soothing, well-balanced island of longevity, the mound of pride, Liberty Bond. Conscience tact your thoughts, and with an orderless order, that of an overwhelming subscription for the veins blood of our republic. Bonds, have that silent last powerful heart-throb of this continent read, Dear Mr. Mikado, you sit tight, and the answer from this great man will likewise not be forthcoming, but, and to those whose psychic power can read the very depths of his soul, only one answer possible can be made visible to the human eye. Quick peace, honor, and forever. I trust every member of the VSS to never cease to advocate the bond issue. The very heart's blood of our spy-proof movement equally shares of endeavor with that of rising to the subscription occasion, that we might substantiate those before us, and in the trenches, with both that glorious fighting spirit fact, and that we have met all demands equal to their capable progressiveness, together with the rendering impotence of all foe orders to their emissaries, staggering their every turn, and with their helplessness comes their sad revelation of wasted propaganda funds, closely followed by their being made to believe this fact, spy-proof America, and the end of their rainbow. Foremost in my mind and during the war lingers but one supreme lofty thought. Giving my full time and devotion to the spirit of this book, I cast to the four winds all things else, and my advocacy of this work shall not only be taken up, and by the heart of young America, but shall find a choice spot on every household table in intellectual patriotic America. Beyond me do I scatter all thoughts of monetary aim, for such an aim, and during a war, is but a common treason. Guiltless am I. As they are issued, so shall all my personal profits from this work go to the purchasing of Liberty Bonds. Hence the waving over our land of that sacred magic wand, called peace, just so soon shall I surrender my bonds to a gift fund, which fund shall accept all bonds gratis. And so shall proud America again hear our supreme eagle screech aloud. Posterity, your heirloom from us of yesterday shall read, 'neath mountain-like words and made human by golden morning sun rays, this immortal message, hold high your heads, children, high, for you are debtless. Evasion means invasion. We cannot look askance. It is too late. We must fight. Equally strong must be the impression with which we permeate the spirit of our soldiery and our navy, that the flag pulse of the entire nation stands behind them, and also the Red Cross. This they must know, that we know and appreciate. Liberty Loan and the Voluntary Secret Service. God bless you both. Fini.
To those who are not called upon to enter into the active service of this great war, because of their ability to perform an even greater at-home service and all native citizenry. When the very history, present day, today's history, of this gigantic organization becomes known, and our across-the-continent handshake becomes an early fact, and that will be soon, just so soon have we rightly begun to really end this world war. Heretofore, the left-behind hearthstone became the one altar of sorrowful throbs, the palace of thrills, shrine of pangs. In the name of our serene unity, these heretic thoughts have now long since died, and with the declaration of war. And with these same old dead thoughts of the remote past, hastened into the distant background, so have we lived anew, and with that power which all served us to concentrate, and fully so, upon the mightiest subject of our day, our new baby, the Liberty Loan, and the VSS, Spy-Proof America. All big ideas must be carefully nurtured, and so must this one be. While this infant is enjoying excellent health, we must not dare think of it as being immune to illness, but carefully guard against it. Proper care now, vigilance, cannot help but gain our speedy and national long recovery, the keeping of ourselves from all future attack or treachery. The writing is plain. It is written in red blood. To not read it and mountain wall against its progress means stone blindness. America, make your new Bible the Liberty Loan, your sacred altar, the VSS. And soon now, even the very birds will chirp peace, and our country, the troops, the Red Cross, and all humanity will bless you. Order blank, J. Francis Logan, 543 Seneca Street, Buffalo, New York. Enclosed, please find money order for 10 cents. Money sent will be at the risk of sender, for which amount you will forward to me one copy of Spy-Proof America, or the VSS. I am purchasing a 25,000-word book. This book must merit the readings of a 100,000-word novel made down into a text, less description and dialogue of same. Otherwise, I shall deem your edition as misleading. Should this happen, I will fill out below blank, return the book, and by return mail, accept the return of my 10 cents, no questions asked. A postage stamp is required, 2 cents, with all single orders. Name, address, city, state. Objection or return money blank. Please return to name, address, city, state. No true American can afford to be without this book. Author's profits to future Liberty Loan issues. And end of Spy-Proof America by J. Francis Logan. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.